Today I talk about high school League of Legends, focusing on improving and harnessing desire. Welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 71. So we just had a nice long 1 month break, and first of all, thanks for sticking with me. I want to fill you in on what has been happening for the last few weeks. So I was in LA and things got really crazy busy. I was there with Ember, and then I was there with Team Solo Mid throughout kind of the first week of playoffs, up to crushing Immortals and breaking their victory spree. And then I came back to Finland and had a little baby who is at home resting right now. Babies sleep all the time. So now I'm finally caught up and free to start the show again. And here we go, back to the grind. So I wanted to just dive into the questions and kind of get through them. And I'll give you updates about other things that are happening kind of throughout the week. I'm going to record a bunch of shows today and kind of release them as we go, as I'm kind of getting packed up and centered back in Finland here. So let's get into the first question.
Coleman asks, what should you do when you feel like you can't improve?
So a lot of this has to do with tracking and with kind of feeling where you are at a given moment. I'm thinking particularly of a really interesting study about personality change, and it says that it showed that people's personality, people's version of who they are changed pretty regularly throughout life. Like it changed really rapidly up until around mid-20s, and then it changed about every 2 or 3 years. People would be a more or less pretty different person from who they were 2 or 3 years ago, but our perception of that change was a lot more delayed. Like the perception of how much we changed over a given time was delayed 5 to 10 years. And I think it's very similar in skill development. So you might actually be learning, you might actually be growing, but you always see where you are right now and where you could be. And so that perception is not the same as reality. So one really easy way to fix that is to erase perception and try to track. So in League of Legends, we have something nice, the global ladder, where you can kind of track your progression through LP gains, but that's not very useful if you've stagnated or you're plateauing. So you should be doing other things like tracking your CS per minute, tracking your success with certain characters, which now is also included in the game, so you can kind of see that improvement over time. You can track your success with out-of-game stuff, like if you're using headspace.com, you can kind of see your mindfulness. There's all sorts of automated apps you can use to do this stuff too. If you go to ifttt.com, I want to say, you can download apps for your Android and iOS that you can just press a button and it will start a timer that will track certain things. You can send yourself an email when you go to a certain place. You can start working out and you can track that with a fitness app. So there's all sorts of ways that you can focus on improving, that you can see progress. And then you don't have to feel like you're improving. You can witness it. And when you can witness it, then you can kind of feel better about what's going on. So I wouldn't leave it up to your emotions to decide how well or how not well you're improving. I would kind of take it out of the emotional context and try to put it into the real life context. And what you'll see is that there's a pretty strong correlation with doing stuff and getting better at it. And so that's my answer for that.
Joshua asks, should League of Legends be considered a sport in high schools?
I think this is already happening. So 2 answers to this question. 1, yes, it should be. And then 2, I'll explain why. So this is basically already happening in Sweden. And the reason it should be considered a sport in high schools is because it is got a reflexive component. So unlike chess, where the chess is like a club, so you have a club because it's more of a mental thing, a mental competition, I think that League of Legends should be treated as a sport because for 2 reasons. 1, it has a component that is physical and reflexive, so you need to train it in a similar way you would train a sport. You need to do volume training, but on the other hand, it's really unhealthy for you, and so it needs to be in a push towards an environment that allows people to develop more holistically, which is why I think it should be classified as a sport. And the reason it needs to be a sport in high school is because we need to create local competition. We need to create local live competition for with teams of people that that are coached in order for competitive esport, not just League of Legends, but CSGO and all these other sports, to be used as developmental tools, to be used by society and by schools and by parents and by towns as ways to develop kids and students discipline and teamwork and social cohesion and ability to regulate their competitive emotions and their training emotions and their ability to connect things like their physical fitness with their ability on the rift. And so that's best done in the kind of structure that high school sports provides. And it's already happening in Sweden. It's already happening in California. And so it's just a matter of time till it starts to kind of spread everywhere.
Miguel asks, I have the dream to become professional. How can I get better? I feel that I have the potential and the desire, but the wrong mindset.
Miguel and people like you, for example, me, first of all, I want to say that there's not necessarily anything wrong with you. Like plateauing is simply a matter of like kind of what tools you were pre-programmed with and what tools you were raised with. And one of those that's really important is self-awareness or reflexive ability and being able to be critical. So what I would recommend is that I can't really diagnose you. I can't say that like, oh, this is exactly what's wrong, and if you fix this, this will improve. But what I can say is that if you're training yourself and you're trying to do these things and it's not working, then you need to get an outside perspective. You need to get a coach. You should go to lowellcoaching.com. You should find somebody and get 2, 3, 4 sessions a week. It doesn't need to be paid. There's lots of free volunteers on there. It doesn't matter if it's higher rank or lower rank. Get somebody to critique you and be as open as possible at everything that they say and kind of throw yourself into that. So the other thing I would recommend is to cut down if like you're doing 10, 12 hours a day on VOD watching and replay watching and your training and it's not working, you need to start thinking outside the box. So cut back on the stuff that's not working if you're not progressing and start throwing in things like training other games that are also MOBAs or training game theory or writing about the game and analyzing it from a reporting perspective where you have to explain to somebody else what's going on and get feedback on that explanation. Write for a blog and say like, this is what I think is happening in this game, and then go on Twitter and see what people are saying and accusing you of being stupid about, and think about that. So those are the kind of things that I would kind of break out of your box and try to see if you can hit that next level of growth. And it all involves feedback from the outside because apparently what you're doing, internally in your own system isn't working very well. Okay, so I just gonna jump through those 3 questions today. I'm gonna try to catch up to the whole backlog of questions. There were a lot that were asked throughout March and April. Now it's end of April, so it's been almost 5 or 6 weeks off from the show. And I want to make sure that I kind of get everybody's questions, but I don't know how quickly I'm going to be able to go through them. So I'll try to record a whole bunch of shows, like I said, in a batch and just put them out day by day. And eventually we'll catch up to the live questions. I might miss some questions in there, and so you'll just have to resubmit them if you don't see your questions on there. Remember to use the hashtag AskWeldon on Twitter. They'll pop up. And now I'm also relaunching my website, mindgames.gg. So if you go to mindgames.gg/AskWeldon, all one word, you will find a form there that you can ask a longer form question. And you can also find out where to watch the show on YouTube and on Facebook. And yeah, excited to be back. Check out my Snapchat and Twitter, and there's one more on there. Oh, Periscope, because now that I have a few weeks to dig into mind games, I'm going to be covering a lot of stuff that I went through with the boot camps with the major teams when I was out in LA, and kind of what the future holds, and talk a little bit about mind games and the courses we're launching and some esport coaching network stuff. Catch you guys later.